You wake up in the middle of the night, your bedroom is dark, and immediately your body senses that something is deeply wrong. You try to move your right arm, only your right arm, but the signal leaves your brain and never reaches your hand. You try to open your mouth and call for help, and your jaw refuses to move, as if it were welded shut. Your eyes are open. You can see the ceiling above you. You can hear the silence of the house, but you cannot move. You are fully awake, fully aware, fully conscious, and trapped inside a body that has decided to ignore every command you give it. Welcome to the most terrifying thing your own brain does to you, and the worst part is that it does this every single night. You just happen to wake up in the middle of it, but for most humans, this exact moment passes completely unnoticed in the dark. About 40% of humans will experience this fully awake at least once during their lives, and many will never tell anyone. The other 60% experience the same thing every night, but their brain finishes the job before they have time to wake up. Your body is locked completely inside itself for roughly 90 minutes every single night, and almost none of that experience is remembered. Over the course of an average human life, that adds up to more than 2.5 years spent fully paralyzed. Tonight we are going to explain exactly why your brain does this to you, with chemicals you cannot see and switches you cannot feel. We will explain what happens in the rare nights, when the system fails, and what you actually see when your eyes open too early, and we will reveal why humans across every continent and every century have described seeing the exact same figure standing in the dark room. Because what your ancestors called a demon and what your grandmother called a curse, your brain calls something far more disturbing than either. Every night your body cycles through 3 completely distinct phases of sleep, and each one of them does something different to your brain. First comes light sleep, where your muscles begin to soften and your awareness of the room around you slowly starts to fade away. Then comes deep sleep, where your body begins to repair itself, your immune system activates, and your memories start being filed away permanently. And then comes REM sleep, the stage where your eyes move rapidly, your brain becomes hyperactive, and you begin to dream vividly. REM is where the trouble begins, because in REM your brain has a very serious problem to solve, and it has very little time. To your sleeping brain, your dreams are not imaginary stories, and they are not symbolic visions. They are interpreted by the brain as real. If you dream you are running through a forest, your brain sends real electrical signals down your spine and into your sleeping legs. If you dream you are punching someone in a fight, your brain sends real signals to your arms, to your fists, to your shoulders. And if your body received those signals normally, the way it receives them when you are awake, something extremely dangerous would happen to you. You would physically act out every single dream you ever had, every chase, every fall, every fight, every desperate attempt to flee danger. You would punch the person sleeping next to you, run into your bedroom walls, throw yourself down the stairs, and possibly strangle yourself. For evolution, this risk was unacceptable, because a single REM episode could have killed our ancestors before they ever managed to reproduce. So evolution invented a solution, and that solution is so brutal that it became the reason humans have feared the dark for millennia. The moment you enter REM, 2 specific chemicals are released by a small structure deep inside the lower part of your brainstem. The first chemical is called glycine, and the second is called GABA, and together they create something that science calls REM atonia. These 2 chemicals flood every single motor neuron in your spinal cord, the same neurons that normally carry every movement command in your body. And the result is immediate, complete, and absolute. Your spinal cord is essentially disconnected from your brain, and the connection cannot be restored. Your brain can still send commands, your muscles can still theoretically receive them, but nothing crosses the chemical wall now standing between them. You have become, for the next 20 minutes or so, a fully conscious mind sitting inside a body that no longer recognizes your orders. Except you never know this, because your brain also released the chemicals that prevent you from being awake during this exact part of sleep. Every adult human enters this state 4 to 6 times every night, and every cycle lasts somewhere between 15 and 25 minutes. Add all of those cycles together across a single night, and the total comes to roughly 90 minutes. spent completely paralyzed by your brain. Now multiply that by every single night of your life, from your first breath to the night you eventually die in your sleep. By the time you reach the age of 70, you will have spent more than 2.5 years of your life paralyzed. More time spent paralyzed than the entire duration of your university degree, your first relationship, or every vacation you will ever take combined. And you have no memory of any of it, because most nights the system shuts you off perfectly and wakes you again at dawn. Most nights, but not all nights, because sometimes the chemicals fade slightly out of sync and the system breaks in front of you. Sometimes, for reasons that scientists still do not fully understand, your conscious mind wakes up before the chemicals have left your spinal cord. Your awareness returns, your eyes open, the room becomes visible, and your body remains, in every measurable way, completely shut off. You try to scream and nothing comes out. You try to reach for the lamp beside you and your arm does not even move. You try to close your eyes again to escape into sleep, but even your eyelids refuse to obey the orders from your brain. The chemicals are still active, still flooding your motor neurons, and there is nothing your willpower can do to dissolve them any faster. Your brain, faced with this impossible situation, does something it has done since the very first humans walked out of African forests. It searches frantically for an explanation, because to your brain, a body that does not move can only mean one thing: a threat. A threat must have a cause, a face, a presence, and if no cause is visible, your brain immediately starts building one for you. It pulls images from your worst fears, from your darkest memories, from every horror story you ever heard during your entire life, and then, with absolute precision and absolute confidence, your brain places that figure inside your dark bedroom, standing somewhere near your bed. You feel its weight pressing down on your chest. You feel its eyes watching you from a corner. You feel its breath beside you. And you cannot move. You cannot scream. You cannot even turn your face away from whatever your own brain has placed in your room. This phenomenon has been documented for as long as humans have been writing, and it always carries the same 3 specific features: a heavy presence in the room, a crushing weight on the chest, and a dark figure who watches the person without ever speaking. 3 features, perfectly identical, described by people who spoke different languages, lived on different continents, and never had any contact with each other. In medieval England, they called it the Mare, a demon that rode the chest of sleeping people and pressed them down until morning. That word, mare, is exactly where the modern English word nightmare comes from, the original meaning of which was a literal night demon. In Newfoundland, fishermen and farmers called the same phenomenon the old hag, a witch that climbed onto sleeping men and crushed them into silence. In Brazil, they call it the Pisadeira, which means the one who steps on you, a thin old woman with extremely long fingernails. In Japan, this experience is known as the Kanashibari, an ancient word that literally describes the feeling of being bound by invisible metal chains. In Scandinavia, they spoke of the Mare, a hostile spirit that visited sleepers in the night and climbed onto them to suffocate them slowly. In Türkiye, the experience is called the Karabasan, a dark figure that sits on the sleeper and steals their breath until sunrise comes. In Arabian tradition, it is the Jinn, a spirit from another world that can enter a person's room and immobilize their entire body. Different cultures, different languages, different centuries, but the description is always identical, down to the smallest sensory detail of the experience. The pressure on the chest, the figure standing nearby, the inability to speak, and the absolute certainty that something evil is in the room. And modern science has now mapped each of these sensations directly to a specific function happening inside your brain during sleep paralysis. The crushing weight on your chest is real. It is your diaphragm muscles, partially paralyzed, working much harder than usual to keep breathing. The figure in the corner is your brain's attempt to assign a cause to the danger your amygdala is currently detecting around you. The presence you feel beside you is not really beside you. It is the fear center of your brain firing without your conscious control. The demon that humans have feared for 10,000 years is the same chemical, doing the same job in the same brain every night. And here is the cruelest part of sleep paralysis, the part that separates it from every other sleep disorder ever documented by science. While the episode is happening, while you lie there frozen and silent, Your body is releasing real and powerful panic chemicals into your bloodstream. Cortisol, the stress hormone, floods your system at the same level it would during a genuine physical attack on your life. Adrenaline pours into your veins, your heart rate climbs, sometimes doubling in speed within seconds, and your blood pressure spikes dangerously high. Your sweat glands open, your skin grows cold, your pupils dilate wide enough to absorb every faint trace of light that reaches the room. To your nervous system, the threat is no longer imagined. To your nervous system, the threat is happening right now, inside your room. And the only living creature in that room who cannot do anything to defend itself, who cannot fight or escape, is you. Your body responds to invisible danger with maximum biological force, while you remain completely incapable of even closing your eyes to make it stop. This experience usually lasts somewhere between 30 seconds and 3 minutes, but every survivor describes it as feeling like hours of frozen, helpless terror. And after it ends, when the chemicals finally fade and you can move again, the panic hormones do not just disappear from your bloodstream. They linger for hours, leaving you exhausted, anxious, and afraid to fall asleep again the following night, sometimes for several weeks afterward. You are more likely to experience this tonight if you sleep flat on your back, with your face directly pointed up at the ceiling. You are also at higher risk if you slept poorly last night, took a nap during the afternoon, or worked an overnight shift. Students during exam season, new parents adjusting to a newborn baby, and travelers crossing multiple time zones are the most frequent victims of all. Anyone whose REM cycles are being broken, interrupted, or compressed into smaller windows is essentially inviting their brain to mistime the chemical release. Roughly 8% of all adults experience full sleep paralysis on a regular basis, and most of them never tell another human about it. They keep it private because there has never been a name for it that anyone around them would actually understand or take seriously. Now finally you have one: sleep paralysis, REMatonia, glycine, GABA, amygdala overdrive, and the ancient shared hallucination of a watching figure. Tonight, when you turn off the light, close your eyes, and drift into sleep, this entire process is going to happen to you again. 4 to 6 times before sunrise, your body will go dark, your dreams will start to run, and your spinal cord will be flooded. And on most nights, your brain will finish its job perfectly. The chemicals will fade before you wake, and you will remember absolutely nothing. But somewhere out there, on some quiet night, the timing is going to slip. The chemicals will linger, and your eyes will open early. And when that happens, when you finally meet the figure in the corner of your room, you will know exactly what it really is.